Welcome to LMJ English, the channel where you not only improve your English, but dive deep into the lives of the world's most fascinating figures. Today, we're uncovering the incredible journey of Leonardo da Vinci, a man whose genius knew no limits. If you love stories that inspire, educate, and stay with you long after the video ends, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. Early life and education. In the rolling hills of Tuscany, nestled between olive groves and winding paths, lay the quiet village of Vinci. It was here on April 15, 1452, that a child was born, beneath a sky brushed with golden morning light. His name was Leonardo. To the world, he was an illegitimate son, born to Ser Piero da Vinci, a respected notary, and Caterina, a simple peasant woman. But to history, he would become something far greater, a symbol of genius, curiosity, and boundless creativity. Though society placed him in the margins because of his birth, young Leonardo's eyes did not look downward in shame. Instead, they gazed upward, to the clouds, the birds, the stars. His mind was already wandering through mysteries that most people never even noticed. He listened closely to the whispers of the wind, watched how water danced over stones, and sketched with a stick in the dirt long before he ever held a brush. Despite the norms of the time, Leonardo's father chose not to abandon him. Ser Piero recognized something special in his son, something unteachable, a spark that flickered, brighter with each passing year. While other children played, Leonardo observed, he took apart toys to understand how they worked. He stared at animals, trying to imagine what it would be like to fly like a bird or swim like a fish. His questions were endless. Why does the moon follow us at night? What makes a shadow move? How does the human body work? At the age of 14, when most boys were learning trades or joining their father's professions, Leonardo was sent to Florence, a city alive with color, music, and innovation. It was the cradle of the Renaissance and the perfect place for a mind like his to bloom. He entered the workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio, a master sculptor, painter, and engineer. For Leonardo, it was like stepping into a dream. The workshop was alive with energy. Apprentices mixed pigments, carved marble, repaired frescoes, and discussed geometry as if it were poetry. Under Verrocchio's watchful eye, Leonardo quickly stood out. He learned not just how to paint, but how to see. He studied light and shadow, anatomy and proportion. He dissected animals to understand their structure. He sketched everything, from the wrinkles of an old man's face to the intricate gears of a broken clock. But he wasn't content to imitate. He wanted to improve. One day, while helping Verrocchio paint the baptism of Christ, Leonardo was given a small part of the canvas to complete, an angel. When the painting was finished, the story goes, Verrocchio looked at Leonardo's angel and realized it outshined his own work. Overcome with awe, he is said to have put down his brush and never painted again. Leonardo's journey had only just begun, but even in these early years, the world could already sense the arrival of a mind unlike any other. The boy from Vinci, once overlooked and underestimated, was quietly becoming one of the most extraordinary figures in human history. The hills of Tuscany may have been his birthplace, but the universe was calling him to something far greater, artistic rise and masterpieces. As Leonardo da Vinci stepped out from the shadows of apprenticeship and into the light of his own destiny, the world began to witness the awakening of a rare and luminous talent. His early work had already turned heads, but it was just a whisper of the genius that was to come. In Florence, the city of Michelangelo, Botticelli and Brunelleschi, competition was fierce. Yet Leonardo's art carried a depth and soul that set him apart. His brush did not merely paint, it breathed life. Each stroke captured emotion, intention, and the delicate balance between spirit and flesh. He was not content with surface beauty. He wanted to portray truth. His first significant step into the public eye came with the painting The Baptism of Christ, which he co-created with his former master, Verrocchio. While Verrocchio painted the main figures, Leonardo was tasked with painting one of the angels. But the moment viewers laid eyes on Leonardo's angel, soft and serene, gazing upward with ethereal grace, they knew something extraordinary had happened. Whispers spread quickly. This young man had painted something that transcended even his master's hand. It is said Verrocchio never painted again, overwhelmed by the brilliance of his student. Leonardo's fame began to rise like the morning sun, slowly but surely illuminating his path. He began receiving commissions from wealthy patrons, scholars, and even rulers. But Leonardo was not like other artists. He was slow, meticulous, endlessly curious. He often left paintings unfinished, not from laziness, but because he was always searching for perfection. In 1482, Leonardo made a bold move. He left Florence for Milan, offering his services not just as an artist, but as a military engineer, architect and inventor. There, under the patronage of Duke Ludovico Sforza, he entered a new phase of his life, one that would produce some of the most iconic works in human history. One of these was The Last Supper. Painted on the wall of a convent dining hall, it was more than a depiction of a biblical moment. It was a psychological masterpiece. Each disciple is caught in a moment of shock, confusion, or quiet pain after hearing Christ's announcement of betrayal. Their faces, hands, and body language told 100 stories, and at the center Jesus sat calm, serene, and glowing with silent sorrow. The painting seemed to freeze time itself, capturing the raw emotion of a single breath. Another marvel came in the form of a drawing, not a painting, the Vitruvian Man. With this image, Leonardo connected art, science, and philosophy in a perfect circle. It was a man, arms and legs extended, inscribed within a circle and square representing the harmony of the human body with the universe. It was a visual poem to proportion and balance, a celebration of mankind as both creation and creator. As Leonardo continued to create, his work deepened. He studied light, shadow, anatomy, and perspective with relentless passion. His portraits did not simply resemble his subjects, they revealed them. Their thoughts, secrets, and inner lives seemed to flicker across the surface of their faces. Though the world would later come to know Mona Lisa as his most famous work. During this chapter of his life, it was the growing force of his artistic vision that captivated those around him. His ability to merge science and emotion, structure and soul, made him not just a master of art, but a master of human experience, scientific curiosity, and anatomical studies. While the world admired Leonardo da Vinci for his paintings, his graceful angels, serene Madonnas, and emotionally charged scenes, few truly understood the fire that burned behind his eyes. Leonardo was not content to merely capture the surface of things. He wanted to peel back the layers of reality, to explore what lay beneath the skin of the world. Art was his voice, but science was his heartbeat. To most people, the Human body was a sacred mystery. It was revered, feared, and left untouched. But to Leonardo it was a masterwork of nature, an exquisite machine crafted with divine intelligence. He believed that to paint the body truthfully, he had to know it intimately, from the bones that held it upright to the muscles that stretched and twisted with each breath. So, in dimly lit rooms, far from public view, Leonardo began to dissect. He worked late into the night, bent over lifeless forms with tools in hand and silence all around. The flicker of a candle cast long shadows on the walls as he carefully opened the body, not with cold detachment, but with reverent curiosity. Each discovery filled his mind with awe. He did not see death, he saw design. His notebooks became treasure troves of anatomical wonder. He drew muscles like woven ropes of flesh. He mapped the heart's chambers, describing the swirling motion of blood centuries before modern medicine would catch up. He traced the delicate branches of nerves, the hinges of joints, the shifting plates of the skull. His drawings were breathtaking, not only because of their precision, but because of their passion. He made the invisible visible. He made science beautiful. One of his most astonishing achievements was his study of the human fetus. In quiet moments, he drew unborn babies nestled in the womb with a tenderness that defied the boundaries of science. These were not just medical illustrations, they were moments of sacred observation. Life, before it ever opened its eyes, was honored on the page with exquisite care. But Leonardo's quest for knowledge did not end with the human form. He studied animals, birds, and even insects. He watched how birds folded their wings mid-flight, how horses shifted their weight when they galloped, how a frog's legs kicked in water. To Leonardo, everything in nature was part of a grand design, a tapestry of movement, balance, and rhythm. He believed that by understanding the mechanics of one creature, he could understand the secrets of all life. His observations were not merely recorded, they were contemplated. Why does the heart beat faster in fear? How does vision work? Can a human body be rebuilt with mechanical parts? These were not idle questions. They were seeds of future revolutions. Though he shared some of his ideas with scholars and students, much of his research remained hidden. He wrote in mirror script, backwards and difficult to read, not to keep others out, but to keep his thoughts flowing without interruption. His pages were filled with diagrams, inventions, and reflections, as if he were speaking to the future rather than the present. Leonardo's scientific work was centuries ahead of its time. Doctors and anatomists would one day marvel at his accuracy and insight. Yet during his lifetime, most of his discoveries remained unknown to the world. But that never stopped him. He did not seek fame or reward. He was driven by something deeper, the sheer joy of learning, the thrill of uncovering truth where others dared not look. In Leonardo's hands, science became more than a field of study. It became an art. And through his tireless exploration of the body and the natural world, he reminded us that curiosity is not just a gift, it is a calling. Visionary inventions. To walk inside the mind of Leonardo da Vinci was to enter a world centuries ahead of its time, a world where humans flew like birds, machines moved without hands, and war was fought with silent mechanical giants. He was not just a painter or a scientist. Leonardo was an inventor of impossible dreams, many of which the world would only come to understand long after his death. In the pages of his notebooks, over 13,000 surviving sheets, were ideas that seemed like fantasies. Strange flying machines, armored tanks, underwater suits, and self-moving carts. And yet these were not dreams sketched by a child with wild imagination. They were detailed mechanical blueprints, drawn with mathematical precision and deep understanding of physics. Leonardo was not guessing. He was designing the future. One of his greatest obsessions was flight. He would often sit by rivers and fields, watching birds soar across the sky, sketching their wings, studying the way air lifted them. He believed that if nature could master flight, so could man. From this fascination came the ornithopter, a winged flying machine designed to mimic a bird's motion. The wings stretched out like those of a giant bat, and the pilot would lie inside, flapping them by pedaling with his legs and arms. Though it was never built, the concept was pure genius and would inspire the development of helicopters and gliders centuries later. But Leonardo didn't stop there. Another invention, the aerial screw, resembled a modern-day helicopter. It was a spiral-shaped rotor made from linen and wire, intended to spin and lift a man into the air. While the materials of his time were too primitive to bring this invention to life, his understanding of aerodynamics was astonishing. He had imagined vertical flight in the 15th century, something the world wouldn't achieve until the 20th. His mind also wandered into the darkness of war. For a time, he worked as a military engineer, designing machines not for destruction, but for defense and deterrence. One of his most remarkable creations was the armored vehicle, a mobile war machine shaped like a turtle shell, fitted with cannons on all sides and powered by men turning cranks inside. It was the earliest design of a modern tank. Though it remained on paper, its concept demonstrated Leonardo's extraordinary foresight into mechanical warfare. Then came the diving suit, a leather outfit equipped with tubes that allowed a person to breathe underwater, connected to floating air supplies. On the surface, Leonardo imagined using it for underwater sabotage, sneaking beneath enemy ships unseen. He even included a pouch for collecting treasures from the ocean floor. His design predated the invention of scuba gear by nearly 400 years, and in yet another flash of brilliance, Leonardo designed a self-propelled cart, the world's first autonomous vehicle. Powered by coiled springs and featuring a programmable gear system, the cart could move forward without being pushed. It could even turn corners on its own. Centuries before robotics and self-driving cars, Leonardo was imagining machines that could move and think for themselves. His imagination knew no borders. For war, he proposed the giant crossbow, a monstrous siege weapon capable of hurling massive projectiles. Mounted on wheels, it could be moved and fired from great distances. Though it too was never built, the concept would inspire the design of future artillery. Leonardo's inventions weren't all practical or intended for battle. Many were pure expressions of wonder. He dreamed of a perpetual motion machine, a device that could run forever without energy loss, defying the laws of physics. Though impossible by today's science, it revealed his insatiable desire to outthink nature itself. These inventions, though confined to ink and parchment during his lifetime, have since been reconstructed by historians, engineers, and dreamers. And when they see them work, even in miniature, they realize Leonardo saw what others could not. He lived in the future, trapped in a world not yet ready for him. He didn't invent for fame, he didn't build for wealth. He created because he had to, because something inside him whispered that nothing was truly impossible. Not if you could. Imagine it clearly enough. Multidisciplinary genius. To most of the world, a man is either a painter or a scientist, say a thinker or a doer, a dreamer or a builder. But Leonardo da Vinci was all of these things and more. He belonged to no single discipline, no fixed identity. He moved through the world like a river, carving his own path through every field of knowledge he touched. His life was not a collection of careers, it was a symphony of passions, each note echoing with the power of curiosity. While others narrowed their focus, Leonardo widened his. He did not ask, "What do I do best?" Instead, he asked, "What is there still to understand?" That question, simple yet infinite, drove him from one realm to another, from the gentle blending of paints on canvas to the harsh calculations of geometry, from the secrets held in a beating heart to the tension in a single strand of bridge cable. There was no boundary he would not cross in his search for understanding. One of his most profound collaborations was with the celebrated mathematician Luca Pacioli, a man who saw the divine in numbers. Together, they explored one of the most mysterious concepts in both mathematics and art, the golden ratio, also known as divina proporzione. This perfect proportion, found in seashells, sunflowers, cathedral windows, and even human faces, was believed to be the fingerprint of God in creation. Their joint project, the treatise De Divina Proporzione, was more than a scholarly work. It was a love letter to the unity of science and art. Leonardo illustrated the manuscript with breathtaking geometric forms, tetrahedrons, dodecahedrons, and impossible solids, drawn with a precision that still astonishes mathematicians today. Each figure seemed to glow with a quiet, divine balance. For Leonardo, the golden ratio was not just a mathematical truth. It was a bridge between the visible and the invisible. But this was only one thread in the rich tapestry of his intellectual life. His notebooks burst with sketches and notes on everything from the movement of water to the mechanics of levers, from the study of light reflection to the design of musical instruments. He explored the idea of a universal machine, one that could replicate motion in any form. He drew plans for hydraulic pumps, rotating stages for theatrical productions, and even mechanical knights that could stand, sit, and move their arms. These ideas, many of them centuries ahead of their time, were born not from fantasy but from a mind that saw the world as an endless blueprint waiting to be decoded. Leonardo also understood that art and science were not opposites. They were reflections of each other. His paintings were infused with scientific precision, while his inventions carried the grace and elegance of an artist's hand. He believed that beauty was not merely aesthetic, it was structural. A well-drawn leaf held the same wonder as a cathedral dome. A flying bird revealed the same principles as a well-designed glider. Even music played a part in his multidimensional genius. He was a gifted lyre player, known to bring listeners to tears with his performances. He once created a silver lyre shaped like a horse's skull, combining both engineering and elegance. To Leonardo, music was not just sound, it was mathematics. In motion, emotion in vibration, a rhythm that connected the heart to the heavens. What made Leonardo truly rare was not his intelligence alone. It was his ability to connect things that others saw as separate. He could find poetry in anatomy, architecture in the wings of a dragonfly, and science in the folds of a smile. He looked at the world not as a series of parts, but as a living, breathing whole. And in that whole, he found infinite wonder. Leonardo. Da Vinci lived not within the limits of his time, but far beyond them. While others sought certainty, he embraced mystery, While others feared failure, he welcomed it as a teacher. He was not simply a man of many talents. He was a man of one. Passion, to understand everything. Not for fame, not for fortune, but for the sheer joy of knowing, of discovering, of becoming. Personal life and relationships. Behind the inventions and beyond the masterpieces, there lived a man of quiet mystery, a man whose personal life was as intriguing as the genius that defined his work. Leonardo da Vinci, though surrounded by brilliance, and adored by patrons, often walked the world alone. He wore no armor of ego, carried no family legacy, and left behind no wife, no children. And yet, his life was far from empty. It was filled with deep friendships, devoted apprentices, and bonds that defied the passage of time. From his earliest days in Florence, Leonardo seemed different, not only in his intellect, but in his presence. He moved with grace, spoke with charm, and dressed in fine clothes dyed in subtle colors, never too loud, always elegant. His appearance was said to be striking, tall, athletic, with long, flowing hair and a thoughtful gaze. People admired him, not just for his mind, but for his charisma, his gentleness, and the way he made others feel seen and heard. Though he never married, Leonardo formed powerful connections with those who entered his circle. Chief among them was Francesco Melzi, a noble-born young man who became his most loyal student, companion, and heir. Melzi was not only a pupil of Leonardo's art, he was the keeper of his legacy. For years they lived and traveled together, with Melzi by his side in both moments of triumph and quiet retreat. When Leonardo eventually left Italy for France, Melzi went with him, and when the great master passed away, it was Melzi who inherited his writings, his tools, and his heart's work. Another figure in Leonardo's life was Salai, a mischievous and beautiful young man who joined his household as a boy. Salai was known for being unruly, stealing money, breaking tools, and causing mischief, but Leonardo kept him close for years. Whether it was affection, tolerance, or fascination that bound them is unknown. Their relationship, like much of Leonardo's private world, remains veiled in ambiguity and debate. Leonardo's relationships with his assistants were more than professional. They were personal, emotional, and often tender. He taught them not only how to draw or paint, but how to observe the world with wonder. He fed them, housed them, and in many cases loved them like sons. His household was often a lively place filled with sketches, discussions, laughter, and experiments gone beautifully wrong. But the warmth of his private circle did not always protect him from public scrutiny. In 1476, Leonardo was accused of sodomy, along with 3 other young men, an accusation that could carry deadly consequences in Renaissance Florence. The charges were eventually dismissed for lack of evidence, but the shadow of the event lingered in the air. Leonardo never spoke of it in his notebooks, but from that point onward, he became even more private, guarding his thoughts with layers of code and silence. His personal writings offer only glimpses into his heart, brief reflections, tender sketches, and occasional philosophical musings. He once wrote, "While I thought that I was learning how to live, I have been learning how to die." Such words suggest a man not only fascinated by knowledge, but also haunted by time, mortality, and the mysteries of the soul. He found joy in simple things, walking in nature, watching birds take flight, playing music and cooking vegetarian meals, long before it became fashionable. He disliked conflict and avoided political drama. He sought peace, not noise, understanding, not attention. Leonardo da Vinci may not have built a family by traditional means, but his life was rich in human connection. Through his students, his friends, and the hundreds of people touched by his art, he created a kind of chosen family, a constellation of souls bound together by curiosity, creativity, and love. In the end, Leonardo's greatest masterpiece was not just a painting or invention, it was the quiet grace with which he lived, loved, and learned. And though his personal life remains full of unanswered questions, what shines through the fog of time is this: he was a man who gave his heart to the world, piece by piece, sketch by sketch, note by note. Mysteries and lost works. Leonardo da Vinci, a man who saw the universe with the eyes of a poet and the mind of an engineer, did not leave behind a neat legacy. He left behind a labyrinth. For every masterpiece we admire today, there are others that have vanished into smoke and silence. His life, though full of brilliance, is also wrapped in riddles, unfinished paintings, destroyed statues, cryptic journals and legends that blur the line between truth and myth. Perhaps no mystery is more haunting than that of the Battle of Anghiari. Commissioned to cover a wall of Florence's grand Palazzo Vecchio, it was meant to be Leonardo's triumph, a fierce depiction of warriors locked in brutal combat. Leonardo envisioned a scene alive with chaos and movement, a tangle of limbs, horses, and steel, all boiling over with human emotion. He worked tirelessly on the design, studying real battlefield wounds, sketching snorting horses, rehearsing the rhythm of violence in graphite and ink. But Leonardo, forever the experimenter, decided to use a new painting technique, one that blended oil with wax on the wall's surface. It was a bold idea, too bold. As the paint dried, it began to melt. Drip by drip, Leonardo watched his vision fall apart. Heartbroken, he abandoned the mural. Some say pieces of it were later painted over, hidden behind layers of history. Others believe it is lost forever. But the ghost of the painting still lingers in art history, and even in ruins. It inspired legends like Michelangelo, who stood before the incomplete mural and learned from its ambition. Then there is the sensual, elusive painting of Leda and the Swan, a tale from ancient myth retold with Da Vinci's delicate touch. Leonardo became fascinated with the story of Leda, a mortal woman seduced by Zeus in the form of a swan. He made numerous sketches, exploring the gentle curve of her body, the soft intertwining of woman and bird, the tension between divinity and desire. But the final painting? Gone. Some say it was lost in a fire. Others whisper that it was destroyed, perhaps considered too daring, too strange. Today only copies by his pupils remain, like echoes in an empty room, hinting at what once was. Among the most ambitious projects of Leonardo's career was Il Gran Cavallo, or the Great Horse, a towering bronze statue commissioned by Duke Ludovico Sforza to honor his father. Leonardo envisioned a horse 24 feet tall, the largest equestrian statue ever conceived. He studied horses obsessively, visiting stables, sketching their muscles mid-gallop, learning the precise way hooves strike the earth. He built a full-size clay model so breathtaking that people traveled for miles to see it. But war has no reverence for beauty. When French troops invaded Milan, the bronze meant for the statue was taken to make cannons. Soldiers used Leonardo's clay model for target practice, shattering it into pieces. The greatest horse that never lived became rubble on a battlefield. Yet centuries later, modern sculptors used his designs to finally build the statue. Today, That horse stands tall in Milan, an idea reborn centuries after its creator's death. The mysteries didn't end with his works. They continued into Leonardo's final years. As an old man in France, he was said to have met the enigmatic Count of Saint-Germain, a figure shrouded in myth, believed by some to possess eternal life and boundless knowledge. Did they truly meet? Did they exchange thoughts about time, existence, and the secrets of the universe? We may never know. But the tale endures, adding another layer of intrigue to Leonardo's already mythic existence. And then there are his notebooks, thousands of pages filled with inventions, anatomical studies, celestial charts, and thoughts scribbled in mirror, script. Many were scattered after his death. Some were lost forever. Others were discovered centuries later, hidden in dusty libraries, rescued from oblivion. Even now, some believe there are still undiscovered works lying in private collections or sealed archives, waiting for the world to find them. In the end, perhaps Leonardo wanted it that way. Perhaps he knew that mystery is a kind of immortality, that what is unfinished continues to live in the imagination. His lost works are not empty spaces, but invitations to dream, to search, to wonder. For in every unsolved riddle, in every faded sketch, Leonardo da Vinci still whispers to us, there is more, there is always more. Final years and legacy. As the seasons turned and the Renaissance matured around him, Leonardo da Vinci, once the vibrant apprentice with a mind that moved faster than his hand could draw, began to feel the slow pull of time. The days grew quieter, the cities more chaotic, and though his body began to tire, his thoughts soared higher than ever before. By the early 1500s, Italy, his homeland, was fractured by war, politics, and shifting loyalties. Florence had changed. Milan had been seized. Even Rome, the eternal city, felt less like a home and more like a battleground for rival patrons. And then came an invitation that changed everything. It was King Francis I of France, a young monarch with a heart full of admiration for art, philosophy, and genius, who sent word to Leonardo, "Come to France. Live as my guest. Bring your dreams with you." Tired of political chaos and yearning for peace, Leonardo accepted. At the age of 64, he crossed the towering Alps for the last time, traveling with his beloved students, his notebooks, and 3 paintings he could never part with, including the now legendary Mona Lisa. In France, he was gifted the Château du Clos-Lucé, a charming stone manor nestled in the rolling green hills of Amboise, just a short walk from the king's own castle. It was not a palace, but it was a haven, a place where Leonardo could rest, reflect, and continue creating at his own pace. The French called him le peintre du roi, the painter of the king, but Leonardo was no longer just a painter. He was a philosopher in residence, a sage whose words the court listened to with reverence. But retirement for Leonardo was only a word. Though his right hand had weakened from a stroke, he continued to draw with his left, filling pages with new ideas and mechanical wonders. His imagination remained a river with no shore. In these final years, Leonardo sketched designs for a humanoid robot, able to sit, wave, and move its limbs. He explored new models for a perpetual motion machine, hoping to defy nature's laws, even as his own body betrayed him. He offered suggestions to the French court on architecture, river engineering, and the ideal design of cities, always blending beauty with practicality, soul with structure. King Francis became more than a patron. He became a friend. They often walked the gardens of Amboise together, speaking in a mix of French and Italian. The king, still in his 20s, was mesmerized by Leonardo's wisdom, his humor, and his calm. It is said that when speaking of Leonardo, Francis once declared, "There has never been another man born in this world who knew as much as Leonardo." Those words still echo today. Leonardo's health declined slowly but steadily. He could feel the weight of years pressing on his shoulders, but he did not fight it. He had lived his life in pursuit of truth, and now he approached death with the same quiet curiosity. On May 2, 1519, Leonardo da Vinci passed away in his sleep at the age of 67. Some stories say King Francis was by his side, holding his hand as he slipped from this world to whatever comes next. Whether true or not, it is a fitting image. A king bowing to the mind of a timeless man. He was buried in the chapel of St. Hubert, near the royal chateau in Amboise. Yet even in death, the mystery remained. Over the centuries, war and reconstruction scattered his remains, and though a grave bearing his name exists, no one can say with certainty if Leonardo rests beneath it. It is as if even the earth could not fully hold him. And yet, Leonardo da Vinci never truly disappeared. His legacy is not confined to tombs or monuments. It lives in the strokes of every artist who studies light and shadow. It beats in the hearts of inventors who dare to reimagine what the world can be. It pulses in the code of robots, the design of submarines, the shape of gliders, and the vision of engineers and scientists across the globe. His notebooks, once private whispers to himself, are now studied like sacred texts. His sketches are displayed in glass cases, admired not just for their artistry, but for their astonishing accuracy. Modern doctors still marvel at his anatomical drawings. Aeronautical engineers cite his flying machines as early blueprints for modern helicopters. His idea for a self-propelled cart is seen as a forerunner of autonomous vehicles. His fascination with geometry and proportion continues to shape how we build, design, and understand the universe. But perhaps the greatest gift Leonardo left us, here's not a machine, a painting, or even a book. It is the permission to wonder. Leonardo da Vinci taught the world that it is noble to ask questions, even if there are no answers. That beauty and truth are not separate but intertwined. That it is possible to live not in pursuit of wealth or power, but in pursuit of understanding. He showed us that imagination, when guided by patience and love for learning, can change the course of human history. And so, centuries later, we still speak his name, not just as a genius, but as a mirror of our own potential. Leonardo da Vinci, the man who painted dreams, measured stars, and mapped the soul of the world, continues to live in every question we ask, and every brave attempt we make to answer it. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more inspiring and educational content like it, please like, share, leave a comment, and subscribe to help our channel grow. Your support gives us the motivation to bring you more powerful stories every day. Here are 20 key vocabulary words that are repeated or thematically central throughout the Leonardo da Vinci story, along with clear English explanations for each. These are perfect for language learners looking to understand and remember them in context. Genius, a person with exceptional intellectual or creative ability, especially someone who creates original ideas or inventions. Curiosity, a strong desire to learn, understand, or discover something new. Invention, a new device, idea, or process created through imaginative thinking or scientific knowledge. Anatomy, the scientific study of the structure of living things, especially the human body. Perspective. A technique in art that shows depth and distance, or a particular way of viewing something. Legacy. What someone leaves behind after they are gone. This can include ideas, work, or influence on the world. Masterpiece. A work of outstanding skill or beauty, often used to describe exceptional art or achievements. Multidisciplinary. Involving or combining several academic or artistic subjects or skills. Visionary. A person with original ideas about what the future could look like, often ahead of their time. Patron. A wealthy or powerful person who supports artists, scientists, or inventors, often by funding their work. Dissection. The act of cutting open a body to study its parts, especially in scientific or medical research. Sketch. A quick, rough drawing that captures the basic elements of a subject, often used as a first idea or draft. Mysterious. Something that is difficult to understand or explain, often creating curiosity or intrigue. Inspiration. A feeling or idea that motivates someone to create or do something, especially in art or learning. Unfinished. Something that has not been completed, often referring to artworks, projects, or ideas. Revolutionary. Describing something completely new or different that changes the way people think or do things. Symmetry. The balanced arrangement of parts on opposite sides, especially in nature, art, and mathematics. Observation. The act of carefully watching or examining something in order to learn more about it. Renaissance. A historical period of great cultural and intellectual growth, especially in art, science, and humanism. 14th to 17th century. Notebook. A book where ideas, sketches, plans, and observations are recorded. Leonardo's notebooks were full of inventions and studies.